Hey guys, and welcome to another AdosCreations.com tutorial, and you're with me Edward for Ados Creations. And sorry, it's been quite some time since we uploaded or we came out with another tutorial, and I really apologize for that. So without wasting time, in today's tutorial we are going to be creating something closer, something much more like this called Reactor, though it's not going to be exactly the same, but I'm just going to show you on how this was created. And so without wasting time, let's get started. First of all, we are going to start it in Cinema 4D, and then after I'm going to save it as an image which is ready for Adobe Photoshop, and then do some color collection and all that. So without wasting time, let's get started. First of all, I'm going to create a cube, and then I'm going to reduce the height just a bit using those those points right there. So I'm just going to reduce it just a bit, and then after I'm going to scale it up using the scale tool. Scale it, then go to the cube properties and go to the fillet cups and increase the fillet subdivisions to 18. Next, I'm going to maybe increase it more to something like that. Next, I'm going to go ahead with my live selection tool, select the polygon mode, and then after I'm going to go ahead and select the cube itself and make it editable. Sorry, by simply hitting the C key on the keyboard or this button right here. So when I do that, I'm able to select the segments on the cube. So first of all, I'm going to select that selection there, and then I'm going to extrude that to -9 centimeters. And already you can see that we are coming up with something closer to what I showed you before, to that image that I showed you before. So the next part is to try and going to try and group all these segments together. As you can see, it's pretty hard. It won't be neat as well to be working on such small segments individually. So I'm just going to group those into one by going ahead and selecting the melt. I'll just melt them into one. Then after, I'm going to go ahead and split this selection alone from the entire cube, and so to say I should have a just to group my my file section here, just to make it a bit neat. So I'm going to go ahead and say split. Then after that, we hit this delete key on the keyboard, and then after, I'm going to select the newly created cube. As you can see, it is taking the name of the parent. So what I'm going to do is to rename that to be the top front glass. Sorry. Next, I'm going to go ahead and make another selection, which is just right there using the live selection tool, and I'm going to extrude that as well to a -9 centimeters. And then I am going to go ahead and split that as well, and I'm going to name that to be the sort of the right big glass. I'm just going to name it anyhow, anything. The next part is to go ahead with the back here. I'm just going to make another selection, something like that, two there, and I'm just going to do the very same thing we did in the other part. That's to go ahead and extrude, add apply, and then go to melt, and then come back to split, and then just delete that, and I'll name that to be the back top glass. And I'm going to select my cube right there, and then come back to the top part, select the top part, and then just extrude it again to something like that. And next, I'm going to split it from the entire cube, and then name this to be the the top part. Okay, cool. Next I just want to add much more detail on my cube. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead with my live selection tool and then make a selection, another selection, some sort of this selection, something like that. Okay, there, something like that. I'm just going to be leaving 4 sections on each side, 4. The next I'm going to go ahead and extrude that to something smaller, maybe -6 will do, a -6 extrusion. And then next I'm going to go ahead and melt those into one. So the whole idea of what I'm doing here, before I continue, is that I want these to be glasses, right? The ones I was naming them to be the top right glass, or the top or the right big glass, or that. Those are going to be sort of like glass materials. But on this one right here, the selection that I've just made, I want it to be some sort of carbon, to be made of a carbon material. So what I'm going to have is I'm going to have some sort of rusty materials making the entire reactor, and then I'm going to have this sort of like black or blackish or grayish, carbon material that is going to be making these small sections here. So what I'm going to do is to go ahead and split it, and then I'll name this to be the I'll go ahead and split it, and then I'll name this to be the alright, I'll just name it to be the carbon 1, right? So that's how I'm going to name it, but I know that you can come up with a better, with a better naming, it's a better name with better names on that. So the next part is to go ahead and do the very same thing I did. Maybe make that selection there with the 4 cubes there, and then I'm going to go ahead and extrude those. Just apply. Next is to melt those, and then the other part is to split that, and then I'll name that to be the carbon 2. Cool. Next I'm going to go with the cube again, come back to this section, and then I'm going to make another selection right there. I think that's enough, and then after I'm just going to go ahead with melt. I'm just going to go ahead with extrude, and then after I'm just going to melt it and then split it as well, and then that to be the carbon 3, and the last part is to be this part right here, and this is going to be my last part. So I'm going to select those to there, to there, and then going to go ahead and extrude, apply, and then melt, and then split, and then name it carbon. All right, now that we have our sections and all that made, the next thing is to go ahead and make that these things are array way. So the thing is to import our Illustrator path. In this case I already have the Illustrator path with me, so I'm just going to simply go to File, Merge, and I'm going to go to Track. Okay, and we have our track there. So by default the track coordinates are sort of like that, so I'm just going to 0 that. to be on the center, and the next part is to go ahead with my in the object mode, just try to move it up just a bit. Sorry, but I have this flu, you know, I'm sort of sick, dude. Okay, yeah, so I'm just gonna bring it up there and maybe just scale it down a bit to something like that. And then after, I'm going to add that to my sorry, I'm just going to add that to an extrude nose. So I'll drop it in an extrude nose, zoom in, and then go in the extrude nose properties, object, and as you can see, it's been extruded 20 centimeters in the z-axis. It's whenever you see something like this, these digits, it stands for X, Y, and Z. So I don't need it to be that thick. Maybe let me just try to make it half of that. Maybe even half is quite big. I'll even make it to be 5 centimeters. And then the next part is to start now. Is to make the edges just to be a bit, you know, add some fillet caps to my edges, fillet caps, and the subdivisions of 2, and the radius of 1, 2, as well as 1. I think that's quite big. 0.5 will do for the time being. 0.5, I think that would do. Okay, and the next part is to go ahead and add some sort of cylinder, and maybe at this point in time I can just try to organize my my things here. Just grab all those, and maybe I'll just try to group them into one group, and that group I will try to hide it by odd clicking on these traffic lights until the turn red. Next, I'm going to scale down my I'm going to scale down my cylinder to something like that. Then I'm going to go ahead and scale it down like that, and maybe just go to the and maybe orient my cube. Check out the cube orientation to be something like along the z-axis, something like that. Okay, now that we have our cube, I'll move it there, and then I'll move on to the front view number 4, and then I will make that to be this part right here. I'm just going to put it there, maybe put it there, and just reduce it in size to something like that, you know. Yep, something like that. And next, I am going to duplicate that by simply created a copy, and then it's just going to reduce it in size as well and move it there, maybe to something like that. And maybe, yep, something like that. Drag it to this side, something like that. Cool. And the next part is to go ahead in the top view and select all of my cylinders, right? And then maybe try to move them that side, that they should be just right there. Okay, fine. Let's go into the perspective view, and we have our sort of shape. Okay, fine. So I'm just going to maybe increase that to something like 8, just to make it just to balance it. And then next, I'm going to go ahead and group these as well, and I'll name this to be the okay, the rail I'll just name it the rail route, because this is where I'm going to come up with the entire railway. So I'm going to go ahead with the MoGraph cloner, and I'll dump this in the MoGraph cloner, and as you can see right away, we have our railroad, you know, being cloned, but only that it's being cloned in the wrong directions. And as you can see, we have 3 clones, which is the count right here, and it's a linear count, which is what we need, only that they're being cloned in the wrong direction. So I'm going to zero that up, and I want it to be cloning along the z-axis, so it's XYZ. So along the z-axis, what I can do is to come up in the front view, and then try to be increasing the z-axis while holding the shift button, increase it, and just try to make sure that it's something like that, it's equal. Yeah, that is it. That's a better look. Okay, so I'm going to go again in my perspective view, so that when I increase the number right here, I'm simply increasing the railway track number. Okay, there we go. My computer has already started dragging, and that has to be the problem. So I'm just going to reduce that to the default number, which is 3. Okay, so I'm just going to pause it first. I'm going to pause the tutorial just for some time, and in the next section I'm going to show you just how we are going to make that cloner come around, or to clone around our the entire reactor. So see you guys in the next part of the tutorial.